of our making. That isn't the way we do things. But we better get used to it. You've all been in all the protests. You've been to the protests. You've seen what the people who protest against you say and do and how they act. And sometimes you just want to get mad and counter back. But that isn't the way we are. That isn't the way you are. That's the way they are. We have to learn the art of effective confrontation. I don't need to say anything. We're fighting evil. Make no mistake. We're fighting evil. And that's a good thing. That's what makes this fight so important and so worthwhile. How do we do this? With knowledgeable use of our values and practical knowledge of leftist tactics. Okay? We don't change who we are. But when you combine who we are with an understanding of who they are on the left, that's when we can succeed. Opinion is not power. Accurate knowledge is. As Will Rogers said, ignorance ain't our problem. It's all that we know that ain't true. We've got so many things in our mind and our heads that just plainly aren't true. But we know them and we accept them. And we've got to be open to learn. There's a war between radical humanists, those people, and the traditional value Americans. Fundamental concepts where one believes in the existence and relevance of God and the other does not. They don't believe he exists or that he really doesn't matter. And that's a really important point. The differences in morals, values, methodologies, and ideas between the two guarantee confrontation. In other words, it is impossible for us to be involved, those of us who have traditional American Judeo-Christian values, whether you are an avid churchgoer or not, but you were raised with the values that our forefathers brought to this country, that our parents and schools used to teach, that parents are now trying to teach under much more difficult situations. But it is a set of values that are very, very distinct as opposed to the other side. Before we solve any problem, we must understand the component parts. Okay? You don't just kind of jump, something's wrong with the car. Well, you have to start figuring out, okay, is it the transmission? Is it the engine? Did I forget to put oil in it? Did I forget to put gasoline in it? Am I pushing on the brake instead of gas? You have to understand how the thing works in order to be able to fix the problem. That means, first of all, we have to know ourselves. Why do traditional American habits prevent conservatives from successfully countering the left? Liberals will put conservatives on the defensive every time. How many of you folks have been in a debate with a liberal and they just frustrate you? And after you've debated them, you just wish you would have said something else. And sometimes you don't know if you won at all. Okay? We're all in that boat. We have to understand ourselves. Senator Richardson tells a story about putting on a workshop while he was developing this book and the whole concept of confrontational politics. And he had this attorney, a young guy, very well educated, Harvard, Yale, law school, business school, accomplished businessman. And he went to the class and he invited him up. And then he had invited another guy to come up who was a Stanford graduate, also very bright. And he said, okay, Lou, you debate the conservative side. And this other young chap, he said, you debate the liberal side. And they gave him a subject. And in 3 sentences, the liberal had the conservative on the run. Just off on a rabbit trail, not knowing where he was, what to say, trying to answer questions. And Senator Richardson stopped the debate and said, Lou, we just went through hours of training to teach you how to successfully debate liberals. Why aren't you using those techniques and what you learned? And he says, because I don't like to argue that way. I don't like to argue that way. Very important thing to understand. Traditional Judeo-Christian ethics make it hard for conservatives to argue like the left, even when we know better. Raised with traditional American values, we are taught to be direct and forthright. Look them in the eye, be brief and honest. We're all raised, whether we went to church or not, those of us who were raised with Judeo-Christian values, we were taught to be honest, be respectful, tell the truth, make statements, don't be rude, answer a question when you're asked, respect your elders, give them the ability to speak. All of these things are part of our makeup. That's how we have been raised. That's part of our moral character. Anything different would be deceitful, pushy, brash, in a word, confrontational, if we were to act different from that. We believe in right and wrong. In discussions, we prefer coming to conclusions, making statements, ending sentences with periods and exclamation points. Not the liberal. Thank you, Doug. Liberals have no moral compulsion to be direct or to answer any question asked of them. If they don't like the subject, they will subtly change the direction of the conversation by asking a question. Their sentences end in question marks. So here's the subject. Two people debating about gun control. We don't believe that rifles and shotguns should be registered. The liberal would say, oh, you don't care that kids in schools are being shot with machine guns because there is no registration. And the conservative says, well, actually, it's illegal for people to own machine guns. Oh, but it's okay for them to be killed by handguns. And well, actually, there are only 7 accidents where kids die in the state of California on an average year due to firearms accidents. And if you were to take, all crime created by gangs, that we would have almost no crime. Oh, and they go on and they go on and they go on and go on. And the subject of firearms registration is long lost. It's long gone. The conservative will stand there and try to answer all of the questions, because that's how we were raised. Instead of saying, you know what? That's not the subject area. I'm going to stand here and I'm going to patiently wait for you to answer the question that you've been asked. And then you smile. And then you wait. And they will try. They will try to go again. And then you say, that's not an answer. Answer the question, please. And they will get frustrated. And they will start, their veins will start to pop out of their neck. And then they will start calling you dirty names or that you are this brash Nazi, right-wing, gun nut sort of a thing. And then you know you got it. Because they are now in a debate conveying how irrational they are to the audience that's listening. So by sticking to your values, by not allowing them to bait you into this argument and screaming and yelling and calling each other names, and by being true to the job at hand, which is to answer the questions that are being asked in the debate, not allowing yourself to be pulled off message is the first way that you defeat a liberal. Their game plan, their number one goal is to pull you off the subject. The interesting thing is, and we'll talk about it later again, they have no plan B. When they can't pull you off the game plan, then we all know that what they're talking about, the debates that they come up, the statistics that they come up with, all start to fall apart. They're not confident in them, they don't know the subject area. They start to crash and burn. Yay for us. Okay. They put the conservative on the defensive by deflecting the topic with a question. True to form, the conservative politely tries to answer the new questions instead of insisting that they stay on the topic, and off they go away from the subject. Even when we know better, our conservative self-image, our methodology of straightforward answers and directness won't let us keep the liberal on subject. And you notice, I'm talking here conservative versus liberal, not Republican versus Democrat or any other party. And later on we'll talk about the party thing. But the war here is between conservatives and liberals. That's what the war is. No matter what party you're affiliated with or how you register to vote. Knowledge is not necessarily behavior. Okay, now that you know one of the tactics you should use, you think you'll be able to use it all the time? It's hard. It's hard. It's bad for us to overeat or drive too fast, but we do it, don't we? I do. I got here in almost world record time from El Dorado County, even though we know we shouldn't. It takes practice. It takes practice to overcome the desire to not answer a liberal's verbal change of direction, just as it takes determination to keep him on the subject. We need to practice with each other. One of the things that I learned at the Reading Tea Party thing, which I think Erin, who is the leader gal over here, and one of my heroes, Erin, Ryan, stand up, please. She's hiding over there. One of my heroes. One of the things that they do is they have their meeting, and then they have breakout sessions on immigration, on taxation, on abortion, or whatever the subject areas are. And those are good opportunities to actually practice some of the debates and have somebody stand up and act like the liberal. It's easy to be the liberal. All you have to do is do everything that's duplicitous, lie, cheat, steal, do all of those things, and it's okay. And it's good practice. If you act by nature and politely answer, the liberal will always crush you. Why? The answer is a study of Judeo-Christian ethics and the methodology, that flows from it. Understanding the parts. We're trained as youths, don't tell a lie, respect the opinions of others, since they are God's children too. Honesty is the best policy. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Don't be quick to judge. Be thankful for what you have, and nobody likes a bragger. Those are rules of life for us, aren't they? I mean, those are standards. They could be tattooed on the back of our hands. It could be on our backs because we never have to look at them because we know them so well. Judeo-Christian Puritan ethics were a dominant factor for most of our nation's history. We read it in the works of our founding fathers and many great leaders of our country. At the beginning of the so-called enlightened 20th century, humanism started to raise its head. What then constitutes the behavior of a biblically influenced, traditional American citizen? Remember, the reality is you don't even have to be a churchgoer to be biblically trained if you have been raised with traditional American values. I think it's a better thing to go to church and to obey God and do these things, but it isn't necessarily required. Isn't it humility, respectfulness, even in disagreement, keeping his own counsel, responding only when asked, not rudely interrupting others, letting everyone have their say? That's right, isn't it? When asked his opinion, shouldn't he respond politely, directly, punctually, honestly, expressing his true feelings? With others, are we to be antagonistic, disruptive, evasive, full of disharmony? No. Harmony is the desired social condition. That's what we want. We want harmony. We don't want argument. When you get together for Thanksgiving and everybody's there, including those relatives that, we always have some strained relationships, and we want things to go well. We pray for that. We plan for that. We even sometimes go out of our way not to make sure that there's no antagonism and everything goes smoothly. That's our natural state. That's being a good person. That's how we were raised. It's innate in us. Friendly, cooperative, respectful behavior is desired and mandated by our custom and culture. We frown on bad behavior and avoid it. Sometimes we frown so much